Coming up on this episode.
How do you boost your attributes? What have organisations and partners said about the attributes? And why are they important? Most importantly, why am I so terrible at task switching?
There's 36 attributes that we're assessing you on. They align to 6 different groups as well. You need to understand the definition of the attribute before you can understand whether or not you're low, medium or high on it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the People Performance Podcast. The People Performance Podcast is made up of 3 series. First up, we have the Leader Lounge episodes with founder of T2, Martin Johnson. Then we have the guest interview episodes. And finally, we have our performance episodes delivered by our very own T2 consultants. For now, sit back, tune in and enjoy the People Performance Podcast.
Welcome back to the People Performance Podcast with me, Alex Mather. This is part 2 of our podcast on the attributes, and I'm delighted to be joined again by T2's lead consultant, Bernice Casserly.
Thank you.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Looking forward to this. We've had, about a week since we did the first podcast on this, and we left it on a little bit of a cliffhanger, didn't we? Of we discovered what attributes were, we spoke about where they've come from, and today we said we were going to come back and talk about in a little bit more detail about maybe how you potentially develop them a little bit or something along those lines, or get a bit more on how we dig into them a bit. So if it's all right with you, I think we just get straight into it because I'm sure the people want to know. Right. So my question that's been bugging me since we first spoke about it is, are your attributes fixed in place in terms of the stack that they're in? Is that fixed?
Yes. And I suppose what's might be good as well for anyone who hasn't seen or listened to part 1 is understanding that the attributes are often seen as to be potentially fixed. An attribute is very different to a skill, as a bit of a reminder as well. A skill is very much something that you can be taught. You can learn a skill. However, with attributes, they are elements that define our behaviour, let's say. So with the attributes, ultimately, are they fixed? No.
Right.
However, they are innate, and you can start to then really dig into, like, are they coming from nurture, so life experience, or actually some of those attributes just genetic? And you know what? I very much was, and Rich uses this language often, Rich Davini that is. Rich Davini often states that we're all born with these attributes. It's just our levels that differ.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately the starting point, in which case you could say, yes, they are fixed. However, as we grow, as we learn, as we navigate the wild road of life, certain situations, environments and experiences will certainly have an influence over your attributes and where they potentially might sit.
Right, interesting.
That said, I can certainly reflect on, there probably is some attributes where, you know what, it stays there and it really is a fundamental part of who you are.
So that's interesting because I have my bottom attribute when I look at it. I've since completed my attributes report, and when I look at what my furthest down attribute is, my lowest one is task switching, which is defined as the ability to easily shift focus between tasks and contexts. I am terrible at that. Really, really terrible at it. And I'm sort of looking to the attributes to give me some clues as to why. But potentially from what you're saying, it could just be like a genetic thing or something.
It could be something that's just so fixed in kind of in not only your behaviour, but how you're wired and how your brain works as well.
Right.
So looking at that one in particular, what happens for you when you're in an environment, especially when the pressure is on as well, where you are forced to shift focus.
Yeah.
Like, what happens to you? Like, do you genuinely find that really difficult? Is it something that your brain just simply cannot do?
No, it's not that. I think the way that task switching presents itself to me, I am, and anyone that knows me, yourself included, Ella at the back of the room, everyone else in T2, you know that I've got the ability to move from something to something else to something else to something else. I can do that all day, every day. That's fine. For me, the task switching element is, and you're very good at this, I know, it is about moving on to something else but then coming back to what you were doing in the first place.
Yes.
Whereas I'll move on to something else and then just forget about anything that happened before it. Like I'll just go and change and change and change and change and change. So for me, it's more about that ability of always being able to circle back to where I was before I switched task, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a key word in the definition, so the ability to shift focus.
Yeah.
That's really important as well, because you might shift attention, but are you truly focused in that?
That's a great point, actually, because you're right. I can move on to something else and move away from it, but I probably do leave my brain a little bit there and don't fully focus on that because I tick over that until I move on and sort of forget that it ever existed in the first place. You know, something like that. So that's a really good point as well. I start to notice that there's a tremendous amount of nuance in the attributes, isn't there, in the words, in the wording of it.
Yes,
I think,
and that's where the definitions comes in. And we mentioned in the first part of this podcast series as well that if we're giving someone the opportunity to discover their attributes, we're not just going to get you to do the assessment and we're just going to give you the report straight away, because there's so much to take into consideration. Firstly, there's 36 attributes that we're assessing you on. They align to 6 different groups as well. You need to understand the definition of the attribute before you can understand whether or not you're low, medium or high on it.
Yeah. And again, we
So
said this,
important.
we said this last time, didn't we, about there's this whole thing about shedding this idea of it being good or bad, that you're high or low in a certain attribute. You just are where you are with it, and it's neither positive or negative. It's just, that's just where it is for you, and that's it, full stop, end of sentence.
That's it. It's understanding that your low task switching in certain situations is a strength and superpower and serves you well. My high task switching, because you and I really are the opposite there, my high task switching in many occasions does not serve me well at all. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think when we talk about the stack, then the order of the 1 to 36 and what order they're in, are the attributes fixed in place? So will my number 18 always be my number 18? Or can they move and shift?
Yes, so this is where it gets really interesting. So we actually asked this question to Rich Davini, and Rich Davini has stated that it's actually good to retest. Okay. So if you have done your attributes and 24 months has gone by, and it might be good, it's useful to actually redo it. That's something that I've been able to recently redo all my attributes. And you can certainly see some attributes for me personally. Looking at my attributes report sat next to me right now. 2 years ago, I did my attributes. Yeah. My number 1 attribute, the highest scoring out of all 36, was curiosity.
Nice.
That's still 2 years later, after redoing it, that's still my number 1 attribute. Yeah. And I can also see that when I look at my kind of top 10, I can also see that when I look at some of my lower scoring attributes, they really haven't changed. Yeah. So that almost suggests that perhaps they are more genetic or they are slightly more fixed. When you look at some of the attributes in the middle, so there may be situations in the previous 2 years where maybe I've dialed things up and down, that could cause a shift as well. So every 2 years is always a good measure to retest those. Something that we also have to take into consideration is what's changed in 2 years for you.
Yeah, life, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If you've been through a significant life event, significant transition in your life, if you've been through a really high stress period, because remember, these are the attributes that influence and direct your behaviour under stress, challenge and uncertainty. If you've been through a period of high stress for a prolonged period of time, then there might be a difference. There might be a change as well. He also suggests career changes. So my role's slightly changed in the last 2 years, so that could suggest something. And for some people, potentially if you've been through trauma, then that could be another reason why your attributes may change.
Yeah, so there is possibility there. It's a little bit more fluid there in the middle, but similar to what you said about my task switching at the start, the ones that are top and bottom, they're generally going to float around the top and bottom for you, and they may be fixed there. It's that middle space where there's maybe a bit more fluidity depending on what's going on for you.
And I think as well, just to add on to that, is another reason why they may change is, certainly looking at some of mine, if you've been consciously focusing on developing an attribute for a prolonged period of time, then you may see that attribute has actually strengthened and it becomes higher for you because you've consciously and actively been working on developing the attribute, or you're in a different environment and situation, in which case you've had to use it.
Right.
So if you've had to use an attribute.
Yeah. So it's like training, right? So
yes.
it's if you go from an office job to a manual job, you get fitter because it's a manual job. And I guess the attributes work in a similar sort of way, right?
Yeah.
So even if unconsciously you're doing something with one of those attributes on a more regular basis continuously, you're going to strengthen it and develop it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. What have people, what have organisations and partners that we work with, what have they said about it?
I think overall with the attributes, unlike any other psychometric that people have used, it's the level of detail, it's the level of depth that people get out of it, not only personally for themselves, but also for how they work together or how they lead projects. So, 2 years ago, I was doing a lot of work to support an NHS trust in the UK. And as you can understand, when any type of public sector work, high stress, challenge and uncertainty. And I was working with, they were within that NHS trust, you've got kind of different care groups. So the Cancer Network, the kind of pathology as an example. And you typically would have like 3 people who are like the directors of that service within that trust. And we used attributes with them. And what was really interesting for them is understanding where their attributes were, helped them recognise how they needed to lead their service as a little trio.
Nice.
So yes, their roles may differ. It's a case of you're the kind of chief operations, I'm kind of chief of nursing and so on. So yes, anything that aligns to nursing sits under my remit, but actually this one situation might require this attribute. And that's an attribute that I'm really low on, and you're high on it. Rich Davini calls that dynamic subordination.
Nice.
So that is where we're able to look at a situation, take that moment to pause and plan and think, right, okay, what do we need here? Who's naturally high on that attribute? Or recognising, you know what? Someone needs to deliver a really tough conversation or make a really hard decision here. Who's low on empathy? Because that's probably going to help us make this decision.
Yeah.
So that's where for them, they found it really fascinating. And there were people who have done, they're senior leaders and they've done multiple various different psychometrics in the past. Not only did that give them depth of understanding themselves, understanding each other, but it really helped them think about how they utilize each other in different ways. And that's quite a big change. Dynamic subordination is leadership isn't just based on your experience and your remit. It's understanding, you know what, I might be the director of finance, but this one situation needs you because you're going to be hell of a lot better than it than I.
Strategic leadership, right?
Yes.
That's what it is. You're adding strategic elements then into your leadership acumen, which I think is...
But it's hard to achieve for, I think, many people because naturally, I think the more senior, when you've got the senior leaders, and especially if they're operating at that kind of peer level, it's a case of my remit is such a large responsibility.
Yeah.
And I respect you for your experience.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you're chief marketing officer and I'm finance, then I'm not going to tell you what to do with anything to do with marketing because I respect your credibility there. But that dynamic subordination, that's where you really get to true high-performing teams.
So let's balance this off then, because I think that there's a really important balance part here, because it isn't, when we talk about strategic leadership in that sense, it's not just as simple as who's got the best attributes for this and we just put them on it, right? It can't work that simply, and I think we have to be aware of that. But equally, if what that's doing is highlighting to some people that actually you're quite low on that attribute, so it means you're maybe not best placed to lead on this, what it also does is gives someone some awareness that actually I've got an attribute here that I need to develop if it's quite low. If it's in that middle set, as we said before, if it's right down the bottom, then you might struggle. But it's in that middle set, I need to boost this a little bit then in order to pull it up so that I can sort of get to a level there where I'm sort of considered in the same sort of place as whatever person that's doing it. So what's the way to approach that, do you think? How do we boost attributes and get them flowing through this middle section, increasing those ones that are going to serve us well, decreasing those ones that we maybe don't need in those given environments, situations or times for? Because we're talking about pretty long time periods here, aren't we? We're not just like boosting an attribute for the day and stuff like that, are we? It's got to be an extended period of time, I guess. So how do we do that?
So development of attributes is it's a really big topic. And Rich Davini, so the founder and creator of the attributes, he talks often around almost taking like a 3-step approach. Firstly, if you want to develop an attribute, first thing is you need to understand where you sit. If you think, oh, right, okay, adaptability is required in this next project. Right, okay, so where do I sit on that? Am I naturally high on that? Is it low for me? Or is it somewhere in the middle, in which case I can dial into it as and when I need to? So firstly, understand where you sit. That's why we have the attributes assessment tool, where people can truly understand what that looks like. However, I think most of us can think, oh, patience, am I low, medium or high on that?
Yeah.
What do you do when you sat in traffic at rush hour? That's probably a good way to test it. Yeah. So number one, where do you sit? Second thing is, and this is really important, why? What is the reason why I do need to develop my patience? What's the reason why I do need to become better at task switching? It needs to be of value. It needs to be of importance to you. Yeah. Because it's very easy to say, oh, yeah, you know what, I need to be a more patient human, or I need to have more empathy. But then, again, when you're under stress, challenge and uncertainty, or you're in a situation where you need to use it, that the other attributes, your default attribute, is going to kick in. Yeah. So why is that important is so key. And the third thing to consider is how. Yeah. So Rich Davini talks about the importance of putting yourself in a situation or environment where you have to use it.
Okay. So what, like a fear factor kind of thing, where you throw yourself wholeheartedly into the extreme of it, and
I would want to avoid extreme levels. Okay. So I suppose if we were to highlight and like pick a couple of examples, you've just said like fear factor there, but I'll jump into that one. But courage as an example. Okay. So if we take a look at courage, so definition: the ability to step into fear in order to confront danger, threat, difficulty or pain. Right. So if you're low on courage, I do not want you to jump out of a plane or anything like that, because that would be extreme. Yeah. And automatically everything kind of is panicking in the brain. The whole body is going out of sorts in that moment. If you're low on courage, again, remembering some certain situations, that does serve you well. What are the small things that you can do? So start small. So what are 3 activities that just make you feel a little bit uncomfortable? And then thinking around, what actions can I put in place in order to allow myself to, as the definition states, step into that. Yeah. Step into the fear, step into the pain, the discomfort, the challenge, the threat.
Interesting. So this is almost like what we talk about when we talk about presentations and people delivering public speaking acumen, is around, if you're terrified of it, don't start by building up to an auditorium full of people.
3,000 people.
Don't push yourself out onto a stage in front of 3,000 people. Start with a presentation to like 3 or 4 people. Stood up with that. Expand it to a room of
Not
10
even that.
people. Go.
Just start by standing, presenting to a camera in front of you.
Nice, and watch it back.
So tiny, so small. Yeah. But that's where you're just trying it. You're stepping
those little incrementals.
Exactly
every
that.
time. Yeah.
Exactly that. But so clear language from Rich Davini is the situation environments where you have to use it. Yeah. So that's it. So that's, I suppose, courage is an example. Should I have a look at another?
Sure, like give me another one. What about what else is on your stack? What about adaptability? You're pretty good at
so adaptability is my number 2.
Is it? Right,
yes.
Okay, cool. Tell me about adaptability.
So adaptability.
I'm just going to look where my adaptability
see where that is for you.
This might... Adaptability for me is 11, so it's pretty high, but it's nowhere near as high as you. So this is the ability to quickly and calmly adjust to changing circumstances and situations.
Mm-hmm. And again, remembering sometimes that serves you well, sometimes that doesn't. Sometimes my high adaptability means that, do you ever get the job done?
Right.
Especially because I am high on task switching as well.
Yes.
But if you're low on adaptability, so... low adaptability would look like perhaps you can be really honest with yourself and understand maybe I am a little bit resistant to change at times. When change happens, I really struggle to adapt to that. You know what? I'm a human being. I love routine.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than predicting and knowing exactly what's going to happen from one thing to the next. I adore staying in comfort zone. Being high on adaptability, that 100% is not me. I hate being in my comfort zone for too long. So the key thing with adaptability is, how do you find a way to let go of control? Because that's a big thing. If you're low on adaptability, that control and predictability is really important.
Yes.
Something else I want to highlight, though, is in the definition of adaptability, key word is quickly and calmly.
Calmly. Interesting. So maybe not just quickly, but calmly as well. Because I think some people, that's interesting actually, because I think some people often claim that they're adaptable, but that supposed adaptability that they've got comes with this chaos energy, doesn't it? Sometimes this little bit like, this is all a bit manic and all a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Calmly's in there for adaptability, right?
Yeah, and that's something that sometimes I don't always agree with it, but something that Martin says about me in high stress when we're really fast paced and energetic, that he sees that quite naturally in me. But going back to, if you're someone who's low on it, what are some of the small things that you can do just to step outside the comfort zone a little bit? So in that situation where you need to adjust to a changing environment or situation or circumstance, I think one tip would be ask yourself a few questions. So a couple of questions might be, what could be the positive in this situation?
Okay.
One question I really like is, okay, so this has just happened. Based on this new information in front of me, what's the outcome that I need to get to?
Yeah.
Based on that, how do I need to choose to respond?
Yes. Nice.
That allows us to pause and actually engage that logical part of the brain as well.
Maybe a question like, how would I tell myself I am reacting to this if I were observing myself right now?
Yes.
That's a nice self-reflective one as well, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and adaptability is it's a hot topic, that because of the environment that people are operating every single day.
Yeah, the amount of change that exists, right?
Yes.
Let's do another one. What else can you tell us about sort of dialing up or boosting an attribute? You pick this time. I think I chose adaptability. So
one that we did mention it on the previous on the part 1 podcast, but it's an attribute that's quite good to explore because it often shocks and surprises people if they are low on it.
Okay.
And that's authenticity.
Yes. I remember you saying, yeah.
So with authenticity, and I'm turning to the back of mine because it is low for me.
Okay.
The degree to which a person's actions are consistent with their beliefs, values, and desires, despite external pressures. So if you're low on authenticity, then that might suggest that in certain situations, are you a little bit guarded?
Yeah.
Do people look at you and there's a bit of inconsistency in your behaviours? Because ultimately, low authenticity is someone who really can flex and adapt their social.
So it's ultimately someone that maybe they put their own wants, needs, and desires aside in order to achieve an outcome. And it's, again, we come back to what I said before about the nuance of the wording in attributes, right? Because I agree, like if someone were to come to me and say, and where I am on authenticity, but I think if someone were to come to me and say, your authenticity is really low, in a general context, like not in an attributes context, you'd be like, oh, you're trying to say that I'm fake, or something along those lines.
People always feel hurt when they see that low 100%. For themselves.
So I think that understanding of that is probably really important. So it's just about that. I think again, you maybe link it to your adaptability on the basis that idea that at times you put your own wants, needs, and desires to the side in order to achieve something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think if you are wanting to explore that low authenticity and think, right, okay, is there something that I need to be aware of? How do I develop that? There's probably a couple of questions to ask yourself. So, I mean, firstly, like, how do I increase my self-awareness? So if you are really low on authenticity, you can really reflect that you're having to mask or having to adapt your communication all the time and so often. In order to, I suppose, take that mask away, that's dialing into quite a lot of vulnerability. Yeah. So for some people, it's going on that journey of like, kind of, who am I? Who am I the person that I want to truly be? And what does that actually look like? And having the courage, dialing into that attribute again, to think, right, okay, you know what? I am going to speak and say my true opinion based on this situation. Is it that I need to go on a journey to explore my personal values and beliefs and think, you know what, that value is important to me and actually I'm going to live and breathe it. Yeah. For some people, it could be that that need to be vulnerable to be truly authentic. You know what, that could put me in a situation that screams conflict and that makes me uncomfortable. That's why the low authenticity helps.
This reminds me actually about this is sometimes where print can come into the equation, right? About if you're going to be your authentic self, are you moving towards those things that motivate you? Yes. Or are you moving away from or contradicting those things that motivate you? And I guess if you're high on authenticity, you're continually leaning into those motivations, I would say.
Yes. And I think it's recognising where those other attributes sit as well. So picking on myself, I know that I'm low on authenticity. So having that, and this is where my high curiosity comes in, using my curiosity to think, right, okay, so am I coming across as authentic? Or if I'm having a meeting with Alex today, so what do I need to get out of it? How might I need to communicate? Yes, of course. But what do I want Alex to see from me? And using that curiosity to think, again, what's the outcome that I'm trying to achieve in this situation?
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on a reflective, just reflectively kind of speaking out loud.
You're having a moment
exploring my low authenticity and what that means.
Maybe we'll talk about it afterwards. I think that, and we've already touched on it, the fact that there's loads of psychometrics out there, there's loads of stuff you can do. We spoke about the benefits, I think, of doing something like attributes in an organisation, how it allows you to be more strategic. But I guess the question that a lot of people that, you know, if you've made it this far into the podcast and you're still listening, you're thinking, some of you might be thinking, why should I care? Why am I bothered about that? What's the point of doing it? It's just another tool to throw into a business, which is maybe it's going to cost me money, it's going to cost me time, it's going to cost me effort, and I just can't be bothered. Why do you think the attributes is important? Because I know, look, here at T2, we don't just take tools and psychometrics just because they look good or they look good and shiny and pretty, right? We know
sometimes they're not.
They're not. And so we only pick the ones that we think are relevant and important. So what's the relevance and the importance of attributes that has made us the UK provider of attributes, do you think?
I think if I start with two words, high performance.
Okay.
We see it all the time. Yeah. Whenever a potential new client comes to us, and straight away we hear it. So performance isn't where we need to be, or we're going through a lot of change at the moment, and we've had to kind of reduce headcount, or we're on a big growth mission at the moment. Organisations are surrounded by change, stress, challenge, uncertainty, and ultimately, people are also then saying to us, "Oh, and also we want to be a high-performing team."
Yes. Yeah.
And they look at T2 and say, "Can we make that happen?"
Yeah.
Okay, there's a journey that we need to go on.
Just pause.
Yeah.
For a minute, just pause.
That's it. And for anyone who does know us at T2, when it comes to high performance, it's our take on high performance is when you are able to embrace optimal performance. Now, optimal performance is when, you know what, there's highs and lows. And if you looked at it on a graph, it's a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because it's recognising there will always be certain situations where we're in flow and everything's great and we've got a plan. The plan actually goes swimmingly quite well. Then in other situations, we hit drudgery. And that's where it's painful, it's hard, it's challenging, it is uncertain. That's where attributes is really important.
Okay.
Because again, you're no longer reliant on skills and knowledge in that moment. When the project goes out of the window, or you don't miss you don't hit that sales target, then now we're relying on the attributes to shape our behaviour. Yeah. And this is where, if you've got that knowledge of what your attributes are and where you sit, now we can get really good at digging in and enduring that drudgery. And if we're able to do so, then we can actually move towards achieving that flag on the hill in order to reach this magical thing that is high performance. One of the CEOs of an organisation we work with, whenever he's looking at a really big change, big key project, he looks at his senior leaders and thinks, right, okay, who do I need on this team based on their attributes? And he states that he'll always look at their attributes rather than other tools like print.
Interesting.
Because again, remember, your attributes really shine through under stress, challenge and uncertainty.
I find it fascinating what you say there about the environment that we exist in, right? It's not enough anymore to just be good at your job, right? You've got one job title. And some of you out there have got like crazy job titles with like
one
six
job
different
title and 7,000 underneath.
One job title with 20 words in it or something like that. But generally speaking, you've got a job title which dictates the sort of work that you would do. And in years gone by, that means this is your job title, therefore that's the job you do. Yeah. But that's not work in 2026, is it? In the major majority of cases, you have a job title, but what that means is that that's the area that you're centred on and that you focus on, but you get pulled all over the place into all different areas to do all different types of things. That project example from the CEO you just mentioned is a really good one, because there's an example. He's looking at his organisation, the entire organisation of leaders that he has, and going, right, I'm doing a project. Where am I going to pull these people from to make this happen? Now, without doubt, he's got some relevance in his head of, do they know a thing or two about this?
Yes, skill and experience will always contribute.
But he's going to pull people away from their job title role, put them into a different scenario. The good news is he's doing that based on attributes. And there are so many places and so many organisations that will do that without that consideration. Yes. And they just put people in. Yeah. So that the environment of work, what work actually is and what it means in 2026 is probably why something like this is really important. Is that have I got the gist of that?
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, and I think again, just recognising that once you know where you sit, low, medium, or high against those attributes, that's where you can really put work into to develop those attributes as well. Coming back to that point of, when you retest your attributes, there might be some that they really don't change in position, but maybe some do because you've actively been working on them. But knowing where you sit means that you can certainly look to develop the attributes, and also recognising that if I know in the kind of 5-year plan is that this needs to happen, then I need to develop this attribute right now.
So it's absolutely helping you to look forward, future plan, not get, you've got to be present in work in the present. But again, we come back to the world of work. It's always got to be future facing, hasn't it? History is great. Legacy is fantastic. All these things that we've achieved and all this brilliant stuff that we've done is amazing. But you've got to be able to look forward and plan for what the future holds. So if it gives you that as well, then that's incredible. On that note as well, then, when we talk about developing attributes and being conscious of what's in the middle of our stack there, what attribute are you currently working on?
So, and I suppose for me, one is working on and always working on and being conscious of. And I'm probably being hard on myself here because it's an attribute that is low for me.
Yeah.
It's reminding ourselves that if you're trying to develop an attribute that is low, it's going to be harder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that really is like, I'm proper digging for it. But that attribute is resilience.
Okay.
So I might be very adaptable, high on adaptability, but my resilience is low. And what that looks like to me is I can go and go and go and go and go. My resilience, which is the ability to rapidly return to one's baseline emotional and mental state after a stressful, traumatic, or even triumphant event. So for me, I can be adaptable and continue and go. However, it takes me a long time to then get back into comfort zone.
Interesting.
So because of that, my low resilience means that I have definitely recognised situations in my career and personal life where I've just hit burnout. Because I just cannot do it any longer. But that burnout, I'm still going and I can't switch off.
Yeah.
So
you go and go and go and go and go up that mountain until you fall off the edge, right?
Yeah, because I'm not. What I have to do is I have to actively force myself to put myself into a situation where I have to get back into baseline. So for me, that might be something like a really busy week at T2 and I've been here, there and everywhere and I love it because I love my job.
Yeah.
And then at the weekend thinking, oh, what should I do this weekend? And then next thing you know, it's Monday and Thursday comes and I'm like, my goodness.
Crash.
That's it. Yeah. So for me, something as simple as I have to force myself to, okay, no, you've had a busy week. You just need time just to chill out. Yeah. You know what? Take the dog for a nice walk. Have a nice meal. Actually, you know what? Sit down, stay still and watch a film.
Yeah. And don't look at your phone.
And don't look at your phone. Yeah. And also as well, during those really high stress situations, it's then utilising, to be honest, I'm in the great job that helps me do this for myself, utilising certain mindset tools as well in order to get myself back into baseline as well. So that kind of internal narrative in order to think, right, okay, acknowledge the situation, take a moment, breathe, see what you can control.
Yeah.
Get back into that neutral state.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I've probably been challenging there because it is a low attribute, but one I'm always trying to develop. Yeah. What would your pick be?
Yeah, so the one that I'm working on at the minute, and we've spoke about this a fair bit since getting this report, is compartmentalisation. So compartmentalisation, as it's defined in here, it's quite low down in my stack. It's number 29, and it says the ability to effectively chunk an environment or situation into meaningful pieces and then focus on that which needs immediate attention. What I do, and what I've been aware that I do for quite a long time, is whenever I have a big or extensive project that I'm doing, I will always go big picture from the beginning. So I'll go, what are all the elements of this? And I'll look at the whole thing. Sometimes that can even lead to a little bit of overwhelm for me because I'm like, oh, I don't really know where to start or which bit to go with. I'll just go with the bit that I like doing first. But like I said, I've been conscious of that for a little while now. So what I've been actively trying to do is do that, break it down into the chunks. It's the eat the elephant scenario, isn't it? So how do I eat that elephant in a way of taking it down into smaller bits, getting them cleared off, and prioritize those smaller bits as well? The great thing about that report is now I've got the report and I look at that and I'm conscious of that is what I've done or what I'm doing. I'm now super conscious of it. So it's accelerated all the work that I'm doing in that space. And hopefully, I'm really looking forward to when I redo my report in 18 months' time or however long it'll be, because I'm pretty confident it's going to have come up my stack rank a little bit. So, yeah, compartmentalisation is mine.
Love that. I think, be very interesting to see in a year and a half, 2 years' time, where does that compartmentalisation sit?
It will.
We'll see.
We will. I'm looking forward to it. Look, I think we're about there in terms of the end of this podcast. So, Bernice, thank you so much for your input and for taking the time to explain to me and to everyone listening to this exactly what the attributes are. For those of you that are listening, if you're interested in the attributes, if you want to know a little bit more about it, or if you want to get in touch with us here at T2 and do a free training needs analysis for us to have a conversation with you about to identify whether or not the attributes is something that could be of use to you, then reach out to us and we'll happily talk you through that process. For now though, thank you for listening to the People Performance Podcast. We will speak to you again soon.
The People Performance Podcast, brought to you by T2.